Joe Biden has decided to side with rail company Norfolk Southern when it comes to a case that the Supreme Court will be making a decision about very soon. Now, it has to do with lawsuits brought against rail companies, either by former employees or individuals living in a community that have been devastated by a train derailment. Now, at the heart of this case is the question of jurisdiction of lawsuits. And if Norfolk Southern gets its way, it'll be far easier for rail companies to block lawsuits against them. And the most disheartening part about all of this, and you really shouldn't be surprised when you learn about Biden's pro-corporate history, is that Biden is siding with the rail companies here. So let me give you the details. In the case against Norfolk Southern, the Biden administration is siding with the railroad in its conflict with a cancer-stricken former rail worker. A high court ruling for the rail company could create a national precedent limiting where workers and consumers can bring cases against corporations. Now, as The Lever reports, and really The Lever is the only outlet I've seen do incredible, robust coverage of this, the lawsuit in question, filed initially in a Pennsylvania county court in 2017, deals with a state law that permits plaintiffs to file suit against any corporation registered to do business there, even if the actions that gave rise to the case occurred elsewhere. And I think that law makes all the sense in the world. Because think about it, if a company like Norfolk Southern is registered to do business in Pennsylvania, well, someone living in Pennsylvania should be able to sue the rail company, even if what occurred happened in another state. And that's what this particular case, or that's what this particular plaintiff is arguing here. The case has to do with a former worker for Norfolk Southern, a carman named Robert Mallory, who was diagnosed with colon cancer. In the suit, he claims that the illness resulted from exposure from toxic chemicals like asbestos. And so he claims that the rail company failed to provide the proper safety equipment and take other steps to ensure his safety. So he files the suit in the Philadelphia County Court of Common Pleas, even though he had never worked in that state. The reason why he wants to file the suit in Pennsylvania is because his lawyers are from Pennsylvania and because he believes that he would get the fairest access to justice there. Now, Pennsylvania has what's known as a consent by registration statute, something states have had on the books since the early 19th century, which stipulates that when corporations register to do business in the state, they're also consenting to be governed by the state's courts. Norfolk Southern asserts that being forced to defend the case in Pennsylvania would pose an undue burden, thereby violating its constitutional right to due process. I'm gonna let you jump in, Cenk.
Yeah, so look guys, this forum shopping is a thing that happens on both sides, and you can make an effective argument against it. So for example, let's say that there was an accident in Pennsylvania and the guy's from Minnesota and the company's from Virginia. You could sue in any of those three states normally, right? But what if that guy that got injured sues in Hawaii? And you're like, I don't know if that makes sense, right? Okay, so far you say, well, maybe the companies are right? Hold. So a lot of companies, on the other hand, make it very clear in their contracts that the contract must be guided by the state that they're incorporated in, usually Delaware, right? Why? Because the Delaware courts are incredibly friendly to corporations.
That's right.
So they do forum shopping as a matter of course. Almost all companies do this, okay? And then on top of that, this particular company has filed several lawsuits in Pennsylvania. So now they're turning around and going, how dare this guy file a suit in Pennsylvania? Well, you did the same exact thing. So they're literally saying we should be able to do it, but no one we hurt should have the same rights as this beloved corporation, which should have more than human rights.
So as The Lever reports, even though the rail company Norfolk Southern owns thousands of miles of track in the Keystone State, the Philadelphia County Court sided with the railroad and actually dismissed the case. But Mallory appealed, and the case wound its way through state and federal courts before landing at the United States Supreme Court just last year. And in the coming months, the Supreme Court is poised to issue its ruling on this case, which doesn't make me feel good about the situation considering the pro-corporate judges that have been confirmed in recent years. Judges like Neil Gorsuch, whose previous rulings make it abundantly clear that even if an employee's life is at risk, he'll still side with the corporation over the employee who very clearly has a valid claim against the company.
Yeah, so get a load of this. So of course, Biden being theoretically on the left and a Democrat should support the workers, right? I mean, that's what the Democratic Party is known for. Republican Party is known for protecting the rich, right? Historically, this has been the case all the way back to FDR, right? And so instead they jump in here, as Anna explained, on the side of the companies and against the workers. But here's the interesting part. They really have almost nothing to do with this case. So they butted into the case in a way that was nonsensical, just to jump in and protect the companies. So get a load of this. This is amazing. Elena Kagan, who is of course a Supreme Court justice, and one that's from the left, Obama nominated her, asked the government, hey, what in the world are you guys doing here? In fact, we have an exact quote. She asked, Mr. Gannon, the Solicitor General has a choice whether to participate in this suit or not. And so please don't take this as at all a criticism. By the way, go ahead and criticize your Supreme Court justice. Real. Anyway, but she continues, it's genuine interest and curiosity. What is it about this suit that has made you decide to participate? That's the Supreme Court justice on their side going, what are you doing here? And why did you randomly decide to help these corporations for no reason?
No, but Cenk, the response is so telling, the response to her question. So Curtis Gannon, the Deputy Solicitor General, responded to her, sorry, weird
that was hilarious.
Slip. Anyway, so he says this, we pointed out not just that the excessive availability of general jurisdiction could cause international concerns for trade with the United States and our commercial interests. Guys, this is all that matters to them, okay? The trade, the commercial interests. But let me continue with the rest of that, okay? But also the petitioner had called into question the constitutionality of a federal statute. And so we thought it was important to make sure that the court's decision here wouldn't implicate the constitutionality of federal statutes.
Yeah, in other words, we're here to help corporations.
Yep.
What part of that was confusing, right? And it's actually refreshingly naive of Justice Kagan to be like, why did you show up here to randomly defend corporations? Because they're owned by them? You don't know that? Mm-hmm. and to be fair to her, she lives in Washington. And in Washington, there's this giant thick bubble around the place where they tell everyone all the time, oh, these politicians, they have your best interest in mind, right? The right-wing media will tell you that the right-wing politicians have your best interest. Mainstream media will tell you corporate Republicans and Democrats have your best interest. And so they're like, huh, why are they randomly defending a company for no reason at all? Well, it's not for no reason. It's because of the bribes. It's the bribes. It's obvious. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.